evening and welcome to another exciting show. And sorry about the long introduction, but you can't cut Townhäuser short, can you? You got to show a full bit of Townhäuser. Now tonight we've got John Hamer, author John Hamer, and we've got the Focken Minister of Information, Robert the Rebellious. So there's Robert on there, and I think we've got a bit of problem. Yes, we're suffering from John Hamerism. He's got
yes. Yeah.
Right. Do you think we ought to have a sort of what they call it, where you can have a collection, or there's a collection to get him a decent computer?
Yes, crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding, that's it. Thanks,
Yeah.
Robert. But he should be back once his computer has got enough coal in it and it's steaming properly, and he's shoveling the old coal in there, getting it going there. So there we are. Now tonight we're going to hang on. I think he's back again. Here he is. Is he back?
Here he is. I can hear you now.
Yeah, here he is. Right.
I'll tell you what, my devices do not like StreamYard. I'll tell you.
Well, I've got good news for you, John, because when I start the Thursday show, I'm going to be using something that I can't remember the bleeding name of, and it's called. Hang on.
It's called a tin can and a piece of string.
Yes, it's called that, and it's called. I'll get there in a minute. No, it isn't. But it's going to be something else, right, which I haven't. It's in my notes somewhere. But I'm not going to be using StreamYard on there. I'm going to be using a new kid on the block, which is supposed to be better than StreamYard.
My laptop doesn't like it, and my phone's not over keen either.
Well, it's very memory hungry. That's the trouble with StreamYard, and RAM hungry. Sorry, and that's the big problem, you know. But anyway, on with the show. Fear. Now, fear. Look at that scene from, as I used to call it as a kid, Henry the V.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, battle is fear because it's conquering fear. And governments use fear to control us. It's a brilliant way of controlling us. And they've been using it since the year dot. The Romans used it. And when you, for example, that film that we saw is possibly one of the most historically inaccurate scenes you could ever wish to see. Because first of all, they weren't, well, they're supposed to be longbows, but they were called war bows. It was the Victorians that called them longbows. Before that, they were war bows. And you simply could not hold them like that for long. You'd be going, you had to go bang and do it straight away.
The guys that used to use them, the English archers, who were regarded as the most formidable fighting force in medieval times, they had to practice from being the age of 5, to, you know, almost from the time they could walk until they were old enough to join the army, to get their upper body strength, to get their strength in their right arm or left arm, if they were left-handed, obviously, to get that strength. You or I could not pick up a medieval longbow and fire an arrow very far with it at all.
Well, that's right. And also, it was law. And it's never been, actually, did you know that we're all breaking the law because we got to practice? I think it's so many hours a week. And that's never been actually taken from the books. That is still part of law, that we got to practice the longbow, which I haven't done. So so if you're caught with a weapon in your hand, you could say, well, I'm a law-abiding citizen, because I'm, especially if you've got a, correction, not a longbow, but a war bow. You say, well, I'm going to practice because that's part of the law, isn't it? We've got to do it.
Yes.
So on with the show, as I say, we're all overcome with excitement, but
I'm just overcome. I mean.
Well, yesterday, Sunday, it was the 13th of August, you see, and I found this letter on my Mac. You see, and it says here, what is it now? Do not ignore this letter. You may respond if there is a change to report, you see. And of course, it wasn't delivered by the post office. It was delivered, obviously, by the local council. And believe it or not, this is called Broxburn because it's very famous for badgers. Anyway, opening it up, it's about voting, which is something I don't do, you see, and I haven't for a long time. What's the point of voting for?
Because the government always gets in.
Precisely. And all
Yeah.
they got usually scam friendly, because if they're not, it's goodbye. So why should you vote for your own slavery? I mean, if someone stood up and said we're going to abolish usury, we're going to have interest-free loans, plus we're going to have debt-free currency, how long would they last? I'd think about 30 seconds. Now, this is quite interesting, because if you turn the page, it's all about, you know, first of all, it says that I'm British, but the three of us here are English. I have nothing to do with the royalty, because British is the aristocracy and we're English. We're nothing to do with the aristocracy. Is that, you know, are they trying to ponce me out? You know, they probably saw my surname, thought might be royalty. You never know, you know. But if you look on the other side, it says here, who is eligible to vote? So it says it on the other side. Oh, that's the camera. Who is eligible to vote? And it says here, and I'll skip a lot of it, a British, Irish, or European Union citizen. Here it says. Here we go. Where is it? Here, see that? British, European citizen, or a Commonwealth citizen who has leave to enter or remain in the UK. So reading that, that means that a Frenchman, a German, Belgium, anybody in Europe who is in the European Union can vote in our elections. There it is in black and white. There it is. British.
It's very strange, but I mean, which candidates could they vote for? Because they're not in a British constituency, are they?
No, it's a good point. But there it is in black and white. So could I go to Spain on a couple of weeks holiday and vote in their election? Because no, we can't, because we're out of the EU. So why is that still there when we're supposed to be out of the EU? Because we're nothing to do with the EU now, in writing. So,
well, exactly. It does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah. So anybody's got any comments on that? I'd be interested, because I've read that several times, and there it is. It's in black and white. It's very, very clear. You must be either a British, Irish, or European Union citizen to vote. And it goes on about Commonwealth. It always does that. But I think that's really weird. You have to be 16.
I've got a theory about this, Chris. I don't know if everybody's aware that they've changed the postage stamps recently in the last month or so.
Yes.
Now, the old postage stamps used to be actually a store of value. You could actually save them. If you paid £1 for a postage stamp, it was worth £1. And when you wanted to use it, you could use it to post, or you could exchange it for money. Very few people still did that. But what they've done is actually altered by complete stealth the postal union, the power of the postal union, which in common law has quite a bit of force behind it. So let's say, for instance, you're in a car. You are traveling along a road that is used for postal deliveries. So you are actually, in some people's minds, effectively a postman. Have you heard about this, John?
No, that's interesting. I'm not actually.
Yeah, it is quite interesting. I mean, I'm actually skipping the broad strokes here, but maybe they're doing something similar with our citizenship, as it were, by actually not telling us exactly what they mean. Again, word magic, you know, with the K, the Aleister Crowley thing, whereby you actually things like summons means invite. It doesn't mean what we think it means, what we've been led to believe it means. Yeah, legalese and word speak. It's a little bit like the US Constitution. It used to be of the people, but then it was for the people, by the people. Now it's not the United States of America anymore. It's actually the United States. It was something else before that actually was altered. Now, if we've got John Barcelone in chat, I hope he'll be able to throw in his 10 penneth. But it's literally, they're literally changing things by stealth, by doing things like this. Now, it's incumbent on us. It's incumbent on us to actually drill down into these things and actually ask what John meant, what John said in the before we went on air. What do you actually mean by this? How do you prove it? Who said it? How do I drill down into this? Now, they take it for granted, they meaning the big they, whoever they might be, whoever you want to call them.
The powers
they
that
take it for
be.
granted. Yes. Now, they take it for granted that we don't investigate these things. And by and large, we don't, which is why we're in this pickle that we are now. Everything from, the consent of the birth certificate, the national insurance number, all of that sort of thing that we've actually consented to. Some, oftentimes not by our own volition. Sometimes we actually co-opted to it unwittingly by our parents. But this could be another lever, is what I'm saying, Chris, into actually getting us, corralling us into a place where they can actually control us and actually administer us, because we are potentially quite an unruly pack of hyenas and lunatics. We are, but
well, absolutely,
which is not a bad thing.
This is a good point. It's a good point, Robert, because they are. People might find that this hard to believe, but they're actually terrified of us. I mean, there are 8 billion of us, and only a few thousand of them, depending on how you define who they are. But they're terrified of us, and the only way that they can control, the few can control the many, is through fear. And this is exactly what they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever known a time in history where there hasn't been fear, say in the 20th century especially? Because as soon as the 20th century sort of began, we had fear of the First World War. It was
the century of wars, wasn't it?
You're right, the century of war. But then, of course, it was fear that the nasty Hun are going to come over and rape our women, and put babies on the end of bayonets.
On the bayonets,
the First World War. Then, of course, you had Germany again, Second World War. And then you had the Cold War, and then after that, you got terrorists come along, and now we've got all this. Now we've got where we only had in the Cold War one fear, we've got umpteen fears now, which they
now
can
we've
play
got
like a game of chess.
That's going to be the next biggie. In my view, is climate change. They're already, paving the way for that by, all these bloody silly wildfires that are going on throughout the world. Yeah, I'm sure they're happening, but they're definitely not natural phenomenon. They're using that as a way of frightening us into complying with all the stuff that they're going to bring in, in order to combat climate change. The ultimate goal, of course, is social credits, isn't it? Where they'll be able to monitor and control where we go, who we see, what we buy, and this is, they're using climate change, the fear of climate change, to bring this about. It's the old Hegelian dialectic, isn't it? Create a problem, make us clamour for a solution, and then lo and behold, they're going to provide a ready-made solution for the problems that we believe that we have. So I mean, it's a well-trodden road. It's a well-worn methodology of keeping us under control. But I think climate change will definitely be the next biggie, and I'm even suspecting that they might introduce climate change lockdowns at some point, because they know how
that has been mooted by others actually.
And also, just the floods. Now, the reason we had lots of floods is because they didn't dredge the rivers. And what they used to do, dredge the river, put the spoil either side, and then they kept the trees alongside the river, and the trees and the rivers worked in coordination with each other. So what they did, they left the rivers, so they all got clogged up and silted up. So they flood their banks. They cut the trees down because the trees stopped the flooding, because they soaked up the water. So they cut all the trees down by the side of the banks, so they then flood. But the thing is, flood, it doesn't destroy buildings as much. So I was thinking we was going to have a hot summer, and they're going to have similar to what they've had in Hawaii, where you've got people in boats that are getting burnt. Have you heard about that? There's people actually in the ocean in boats, and suddenly their boat is burnt out.
Really?
And then you've got clumps of trees that are not touched, houses and that destroyed by a fire, then cars half fire on.
They're all symptoms of DEWs, aren't they? Direct energy weapons, which is what they use. I mean, it's what they used on 9/11, and it's what they used. You know, it's what they used to set these fires.
Yeah, that's right.
And to make the Iraqi army surrender as well en masse to all but a platoon of US Marines. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
Could it be argued, John and Chris, that we've never not been at war? It depends what you define war as, but we're at war now. I mean, I was chatting to somebody on another forum the other day, and I actually said, well, they're they're more sophisticated weapons for a more sophisticated manner of warfare. But we're still at war. We may not have ordnance like sort of 88mm cannon and helicopters or rotorcraft as a plane pilots would call them, or missiles or whatever else. We don't need that anymore. That's old hat. Yeah. Besides, that creates collateral damage that you have to repair later. What they're trying to do is leave the infrastructures, these, well, if you want to call a 15-minute gulag an infrastructure, but if they want to leave these things standing, but the organic matter, meaning us, the carbon, they want to get rid of us. Now they'll try every which way. They'll set brother against brother, which is literally what they're doing now. They'll inject and weaponize us with their, and actually have us potentially shedding harmful bacteria onto our fellow man when we walk past them in the street. So it could be argued, and I'm maybe I'm just being cynical the older I get, but I just think we've never not been at war. I don't know what your take is on that, John.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, Robert. I mean, I've spoken to quite a few researchers in my travels up and down the country, talking and whatnot, that a lot of people believe that we're actually in World War III right now. What's going on, with the jibby jabs and the all the nonsense of the last 3 years. A lot of researchers are saying, this is World War III, but it's taken a totally different format to any war previously, because they've not had the technology that we've got now to do it in a kind of a stealth way rather than an overt way. So it's very plausible, very plausible.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that
it's
sorry.
Sorry, beg your pardon.
No, I was rude. I chimed in, so carry on.
Well, I did see something from Yorkshire Rose earlier on in the chat streaming, but we'll pick it up later. Rose, I won't forget this thing about the. She mentioned the fires in this, because I believe she's in the United States. Yorkshire Rose is. Or no, Canada, one of the
Canada.
She's in Canada. I think she mentioned the fires, and I glimpsed over it, and I actually I wanted to try and see if we could get that into the chat later on. Here we go. Big fear, massive forest fires constantly throughout all this summer. Global warming, not, she said. I would be interested to see whether they have those in Canada that aren't reported. Now, they report the ones out in California, which is where I believe Shannon is, isn't she, John? She's out in California somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if she's...
I went to visit her, and I went out there to visit her in September 2020, right at the height of COVID. And it was before the jabs came along. So, you could gain entry to the States, although it was difficult. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, there was massive forest fires raging when I was in California. Yeah, everywhere you went, there was charred trees and all the rest of it. So yeah, very much. I mean, she told me one or two stories actually. She said that apparently firefighters there are on piece rate. If they don't have any fires to put out, they don't get paid. So really? Draw your own conclusions from that one kind of thing.
Well, that points to a lot, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's more likely to be, as I say, DEWs rather than individual firefighters wanting to make a few bob for themselves. But yeah, I mean, it was something like the forest where she lives. I can't remember the figures now, but it's several million acres. And I think 5 million acres of it was destroyed that year in forest fires. And, you know, yeah, you could hardly tell. It was that massive, the place. 5 million acres just was nothing. I remember when I was flying into, she lives right on the border between California and Oregon. And the nearest airport to her where she lives is actually in Oregon, a place called Medford, which is just over the border from California. And as I was flying from San Francisco to Medford, it was just coming dark. It was early evening. And you looked around, you know, you could see out the plane window, obviously for hundreds of miles. And all it was, you know, fire everywhere. You know, 5 million acres were destroyed that year in that area alone. So, yeah.
That's amazing. But it feeds back to what the broad topic is tonight about fear and about the manufacturing of fear, the administration of fear, the management of fear. I think. Sorry, but on to you, Chris, because you haven't really introduced the program properly yet.
That's right. No, it should be, because I think that really, you know, what you're saying about forest fires. In Australia, the Aborigines used to actually start fires deliberately, but it's all part of management, and they were controlled. They knew exactly what they were doing, and it was done to start regrowth. They weren't stupid. They knew exactly what they were doing, and nobody got killed and nobody got harmed. I don't know about the animals, you know, but the thing is that it's all part of Australia, the way you regenerated the soil and the land and everything. So it's all part of a natural cycle.
Well, yeah, funny you should mention that, Chris, because similarly, Shannon said to me as well that apparently what they don't tell us is that in previous centuries, the Native Americans used to burn the forests for exactly the same reason.
They knew what they're doing. Shall we have a quick look in chat, shall we? Because we haven't been in there yet. So this is Yorkshire Rose. She says, "Good evening, everyone. Listening from Canada. Much love." And then we've got who's coming on the week after next. It's Chris the Gardener.
Watch it, Chris.
One and all. Hello, Chris. Hey. And he showed his carrots last week. Oh no. Yes. And it's got me starting to grow carrots. Yeah. But we've got here Louise Wilcox. Hello, Louise. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is well.
Hello, Louise.
Hello. We've got Ralph Winter. Hello, Ralph. We got
Ralphie.
Nice music. Stephen Truth Teller. Stephen Truth Teller.
Yes.
Nice music. Yes, it was Wagner's Tannhäuser. He composed that. At the moment, he's decomposing, but there we go. That's not the story. That's a bloody old joke, isn't it? And then we got here Stephen Truthsticker. I'm doing my laundry and washing my dishes. See you later. Bit too much information there, I think. You know, we got Mark Anthony. Evening, Mark. And I've refrained from the Cleopatra joke, so we're okay there. And now we got here. We just had this on Big Fear with massive fires. We've got here. Salaway says, "Make archers great again." That's part of our intro, I think it was. And he said here regarding this council voting, he said, "Tell them to fuck off." And I had an introduction before we started. It said, "What is it? Silly FOKKER." And I thought it's a bit too rude, you see, because we got Robert from Birmingham, you're a Brummie, John from Yorkshire, Yorkshireman. So I thought people from Fockham could be Fockers. Was it KKER or CKER? You know, but I thought, a bit too rude. So I'd say it instead. We got Hatchy as well.
You're from Birmingham, are you, Robert? Oh, sorry.
I am, yes.
Yeah, funnily enough, I'm speaking in Birmingham tomorrow night.
Oh, well, fantastic. Whereabouts, John?
Down Ulster Road. It's called the E57 Club. Truth Juice Birmingham.
Yeah, I know it. I know it. Yeah, I know it. Yeah, I think it used to be a scout place when I still lived there. Well, no, I live in North London. No, but I live in North London. Yeah, but I actually that is where I was bred and buttered. Born, bred and buttered in Birmingham. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell by your voice.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just a little plug for tomorrow night. If anybody's listening that's in Birmingham, you're very welcome to come along. It's the E57 Club, something like 499 Ulster Road.
Ulster Road.
Are you do you have a schedule that is on your website, John?
No, it's not on my website.
A schedule of appearances.
No, if I've got Birmingham tomorrow night, and then I'm speaking at a conference over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Nottinghamshire, at Eastwood Hall in Nottinghamshire. So yeah, I've got like a couple of presentations there as well. I've got 2 tomorrow night and two at the weekend. But yeah, I don't do massive amounts of talks, although I've got a few lined up this year. But no, that's a good prompt actually. I should put them on my website, which I don't.
Yeah, it'd be a great idea because
I'm very lax with it. Actually, I don't.
Yeah, but I've got a notice board on my Fulham Hall thing on Facebook, which I don't trust Facebook. But I've also got Telegram, and I've got a notice board on there I can use, so I can put all this up on Telegram.
Oh right,
and people,
I'll email you so after the show.
If you email me, I'll shove this on the notice board on Telegram. Plug. You see it down here, Telegram.
Yeah.
Because I do not trust Facebook, and I don't trust WhatsApp at all. So I'm very much I don't trust anything on the internet, but Telegram is a bit more secure. And I don't know of anybody that's been booted off of Telegram. They may have done, but I don't know of anybody. But
so anybody out there, you're very welcome to come along, and it'd be nice to meet you. Come and say hello.
Great.
Sorry about that. It was a bit of an interruption.
That's all right. Yeah. Well, anyway, we've got Hatchie. Where is he? We've got Hatchie on tonight. Hello, Hatchie. We've also got Yorkshire Rose that said they're aiming for a one world government. I think we've already got that, Yorkshire Rose. I think it's called that family beginning with R. Yes. And I said, good evening. This is Ancient Ruby. Hello, Ancient Ruby.
Ruby.
Robert, John, and all in chat. Ruby. That's nice. And we've also got Louise said, and this was regarding this voting flop that I've got here. By the way, I use envelopes to write notes on and shit because that's how it's.
Right.
By the way, this is very nice. This stuff is very nice and absorbent. It saves you a bomb on toilet paper. I enjoy it. And that's what it's fit for. I'm not a citizen, so therefore I cannot vote. Not that I would anyway. I don't either. But citizenship goes back to Roman times and slavery again. That's why with this Fulham Hall, you can only be an individual. You can't be a citizen. So this is why I'm with a teacher, I was going to have Fulham Hall individual. You can't be a citizen. You're going to be an individual of Fulham Hall, you see. The smallest country in the world. Now we got here. This is interesting. Ancient Ruby says they are and all have been stirring the witch's pot. I think that's witch's pot to maintain confusion. Insane in many ways, yet it is designed to break you all down until you do not care, and they then do what they want on us. Correct. That's exactly. And have you noticed all they do is stir trouble up between peoples, and that's how empires work. You want to take over a country, divide and conquer. That's it. Yeah. So you stir trouble up between the two tribes, and you're there as peacekeepers. Isn't that amazing? Slap my thigh.
And you arm both tribes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And look, they did that in South Africa, didn't they? For years, there was the Zulus and I think there's another tribe that I can never remember. They just stirred up trouble between the two of them. And of course, we're there as peacekeepers because we're such nice people, you know. Yeah. But I said last week about that I saw on YouTube, and it's been taken down, and that is where the Zulus were during the old time. They weren't standing for shit. The tribe that they were against, who I can't remember, they were next to them on the left flank, and on the right flank was the Boer farmers, all good mates.
Right.
And they're marching, you know, that zoom, 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 when they beat their shields. They were marching along the road, and then suddenly you see the police going, "Oh shit!" Just literally backing off because they knew. But it was all very well organised, and what I liked about it, the coordination was brilliant. The discipline. The Zulus stopped, then suddenly the other tribe went in front, and they did their sort of war chant. And then they backed off, and then suddenly the Boers went, and they did a sort of a thing with the rifles and all this. I was choked. I thought, this is fantastic. This is actually
the enemy of the enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Is that what it is?
Yeah. It was absolutely brilliant. It was, but no, you cannot see it on YouTube. That's gone. That was only there for a very short time. It's taken down.
That's interesting, isn't it? Sorry, we're still in chat. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, we're still in chat. Sorry about that. So it says, South Coast Rich, perhaps it's Europeans resident in the UK. This is regarding this voting thing. Anyway, hi, Chris, Robert, John, et al. I won't interrupt you again. Oh, go on. Read my preference for government over anarchy, but agree and love most of what's said here. Current MPs, awful. Yes, but governments don't run countries. Civil servants do, and we don't vote for them.
Precisely,
so why can't they be accountable? And why are they on a gravy train? The senior ones I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the junior ones. And who votes for them? But they make all the, they make all the decisions and that. Right. Now we got here. Was it? Was this? Stephen the Truth Seeker says, true comment from John. See? And then we've got Stephen Truth Seeker says, the Illuminati are scared of what we could do. Yes, they are running scared. And
absolutely.
This has happened before, and then it worked. If they think it is not going to work, then they will choose chaos. Very true, John. And then we got one here. Yes. Shall we say the psychopath element of them? I think we're talking about there. I won't read it out. And because that is the trouble. Our enemy is the psychopath. And don't give a damn what religion, race, or whatever it is. The predatory psychopath who's against humans is all our enemy. And we've got to deal with them. And that's the real problem. Right. Satellite imagery, this is Yorkshire Rose, showed all forest fires started here in Canada at exactly the same time. That is not natural. And that is interesting. That's interesting. I mean, you got
very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge amount.
Yes, because you got Trudeau as your prime minister, haven't you? You know, apparently his wife's divorced him, isn't she? So he needs a real man like Michelle Obama. That's all. Right, Louise, welcome.
Yeah.
But
a fully grown lady boy she is, isn't she? Yeah.
Yes. You know what happened to that comedian? What was her name now? I can't remember. She mentioned it. She was dead in 2 weeks, wasn't she? Right. Climate change using directional weapons. There is nothing natural about it. Correct, Louise. Yes. And then she's just said
that could also be cloud seeding as well. They might be seeding clouds in that sense as well, to remove the protection that clouds give from the sun, and then literally just magnifying the sun somehow. I wouldn't put it past them. Yeah.
Well, look, there was that chap. Was it order out of chaos is the Masonic way? That's interesting, because who was that German chap in America? Who in the 1940s, he was booted out of Germany because he was rampant communist in the 1930s, went to America and he built a machine that could actually control the weather. It's true. And there's a drought in a part of America. Sorry?
Wilhelm Reich.
Spot on.
Right.
Thanks, John. Wilhelm
Right.
Reich. He died in 1957 in jail in very mysterious circumstances, didn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, there's a pop video by Kate Bush called Cloud Busting, with
Right.
Sutherland in it, and that was
Yes.
a representation of what actually happened. She played Wilhelm Reich's son, and Donald Sutherland played Wilhelm.
Right.
Hasn't Mark Devlin mentioned that,
The
John?
song was called Cloud Busted, and it showed them making rain. Sorry.
Right. Hasn't Mark Devlin mentioned that? John?
I don't know. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, John. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that Mark Devlin, yes, I think he has mentioned it. Yes,
Yeah.
he did. I remember him mentioning it because it's a very good video, actually, with Donald Sutherland and that.
Yeah.
But Wilhelm Reich, he was the one that
it shows them taking him away in this black car with these guys in dark suits, taking him away.
Yeah.
And like you
they
say,
smashed his laboratory up.
Art imitating life.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got an interesting one here. Alien invasions, ancient Ruby. First, then comes the big meteor heading to Earth. Oh, I forgot about meteor. The climate, is not going to work. Yes, I think it's running out of hot air.
It's running out of gas, isn't it? Yeah. Ain't Ruby's right? Yeah. And I think people are finally realizing how absolutely ridiculous these premises are. They're not even. I mean, they're barely plausible, a lot of them. And then you've got people like, have you noticed that, Mr. Professor Brian Cox, that exquisitely average keyboard player, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he. It's funny, you haven't seen him on programs lately. They'll probably sort of dust him off and start and get that sort of salty leather jacket that he wears, and then wheel him out again for appearances when they start to accelerate this. But Ruby's absolutely right. People aren't going to stand for it anymore. They might put a mask on and be muttering behind it, saying this is absolute rubbish. But they know in their mind, they know in their heart of hearts that what they're doing is absolute nonsense. But it's the people that step over the line that we want to encourage, the people that throw the mask on the floor or in the bin, let's say, throw it away and say, listen, I'm not wearing this. This is ridiculous. This is tantamount to me breathing in the exhaust fumes from my car. Why would I want to do that? What goes out of your body is not meant to come in. This is why you're not meant to eat your own crap or drink your own urine. You're not really meant to do it. It's expelled for a reason. And
exactly.
You see what I mean? And it goes back to the theme of the program about the fear. They can seemingly take anything and create this false evidence appearing real scenario. They can create, let's say, for instance, I've mentioned this before, but in the middle of the night, they could fly over the whole of this country and just drop a pink dust just out of the sky. So when we wake up in the morning, our cars, when it's snowing and your cars are filled with snow, but they're filled with this pink substance. Don't touch it; it's poisonous. Then you get these things through your mobile phones. These warnings and these alerts. Do you remember you got that alert the other day through the mobile phones? Yeah. Do you remember that one? And it was this clarion call to cross-reference who had these things switched on, how many people. I'm sure there's data somewhere, and it created data sets as to who complied to this. It's a little, for me, it's kind of like government petitions. You give so many signatures, and then they're permitted, or compelled to debate X, Y, or Z in the House of Commons, or House of Cretins, as I call it. Now, that is actually cross-referencing, because you need to give some sort of contact details. you need to give your address. You need to give your email address at the very least. So then they've got you. It's kind of like 1984, where that Winston finally gets rumbled. He thinks he's just going to have a bit of an innocent, harmless nibble with that girl, and then the next minute the door flies in, and you've got the militia dragging him away.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, precisely. Just see what it is.
I know what you mean. Yeah, but actually, the best film is free to watch on YouTube. You can actually see the original one, film made in 1956, and it really is good. And the black and white gives it that kind of atmosphere. It really is good.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
But now the thing is, what we got here, we got Yorkshire Road says more than 200 forest fires burning here, and cities covered in smoke all summer long, like the apocalypse.
Jesus,
yes, that is horrendous, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we got here, it's all direct energy. That's right. And then we've got here, Yorkshire Rose. Well, I didn't know that. I couldn't trust Justin Trudeau or Castro as far. I wouldn't trust him as far as couldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. Well, you notice that he and Castro look very, very similar. And his mummy, that's Trudeau's mummy, was very friendly with Castro around the time of his her conception and birth. Funny that, isn't it? And she was a good time girl. Shall we say martini?
Had by all.
Yes, any time, any place, anywhere, I think.
The original good time that was had by all, yeah.
Have you seen that photograph? You must see that photograph of her in a mini skirt on YouTube, not YouTube. Go onto Google, and it's disgusting. And she did it deliberately. Mini skirt, no knickers.
It's the one at Studio 54 in New York, isn't it?
Is it? Yes.
And she's hanging out there with Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and people like that. Yes. Yeah, and I think Bianca Jagger's in the picture as well. I think I know the one. But the particular one, because there was loads of them.
Loads of them. A mother to be proud of.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. Yes.
Yes. What's this? Sorry, I've already read that one out. It says here, Yanshin Ruby says, this is war on the people this time. And it's the only war, you think about it, where we don't know who the enemy is. Now, I was going to do a show not on YouTube about who is this enemy, because there's lots of pointers and people saying it's this, it's that, it's this. I think I know who the enemy is. It is the psychopath. That's what it is, of which a large percentage are of a certain group of people, not all. And then you've got other groups of people that are involved, because if you look at the book Political Ponerology, that actually tells you that these psychopaths recognize each other. And Dr. Hare, who's a leading authority on this, he's Canadian, by the way, he's brilliant. He has come very close, in my opinion, to admitting they're not human. They're a sub-breed of human, because they don't think like us. They look like us, but they're not. And I know this sounds dangerous territory, what I'm going into, but I think you can get off an aeroplane anywhere in the world and you'll find a psychopath. It seems to be a percentage.
You're quite right.
Yeah, are they here to destroy humanity? I mean, I've often said the problems in the Middle East, if you just got an ordinary, decent person of either side, family person, not really strictly religious, just a nice sort of person, you could probably, with a cup of tea and a couple of cakes, I think you'd probably have a resolution within about 10 minutes, half an hour.
Quite easily.
Yeah, quite easily. Just ordinary folk just sitting down and saying, but then you get the psychopath come along and the narcissist, and then it changes things, you know. But you think about it, it's the only war we don't know who the enemy is. Because once upon a time, it was that lot over there coming towards us lot over here. But who are that lot? No, it's a war in our minds.
Yeah.
You know, yes. But now it says here, Fowlerway says mainstream media mounted a disinformation campaign against Dutch Deutschland, is that Dutch channel? I don't know. When he highlighted the spontaneous fires in Canada. So was it DUTCHSINSC? Am I being a bit thick?
Jay-Z or? Yeah. That's interesting. But I've got a few theories about this, but when we finish chat, Chris, I'll float these theories that I have.
Okay, right. So, well, shall we do a little bit more, and then
because John's going to sort of, I don't know, give something a good leathering, as they say up in Yorkshire, probably.
It's a lovely light you got there, John. I know you like to show your lights off, and there we are. See, he's flashing, right? It's very nice.
My phone needs
Hello.
plugging in.
Oh, you need plugging into it. Pass on. Right, this is Louis.
Sorry, yeah, I'm obviously using my phone, and it's running out of battery, so I won't be sorry.
That's the problem. 100% correct, Ruby. Their energy is all negative. They can't cope with positive energy. It scares them. And I've often said we've got to laugh at them. That's why they're trying to stop our humour. We've got to sit there. I mean, look at these blokes in beards winning ladies' beauty contests. I mean, it's better than Benny Hill, isn't it? I mean, I'm almost off my seat with laughter. That one in America, didn't even bother to shave that morning. There is
unbelievable. And
right, Yorkshire Road already stopping people going out into the natural reserves around us and trying us down to staying in cities through the sweltering smoky heat, miserable summer. It's a bit like foot and mouth in 2001. People don't realise we were kept out the countryside. We couldn't walk in the countryside. That was quite something. And I think that was a test, because the government knew and got ready for it before it even struck, which is very, very odd. Now it says here, there's a war on your mind to make you so fearful that you will comply with your own enslavement. Spot right on. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's also spiritual as well. It's not just psychological, it's spiritual. It's emotional as well. It goes right in tandem with the campaign about mental health. Just in the last 10 years ago, did you hear anything about mental health on television, let's say, for instance? You didn't. And then it started being filtered in slowly, gradually. You had people like Stan Collymore and other athletes talking about mental stress. And then you have the, what's the kid that wears, Tom Daley, the kid that wears the budgie smugglers, the diver, that kid, so you've got him talking about how hard it is for him being an out gay guy, in public life, and the fact that he was called Speedo Boy at school. That's just, I mean, can you imagine that up in Yorkshire, John? If you have a kid that, let's say for instance, he doesn't like cricket, he doesn't like football, and he's in Scarborough, but he plays tennis, he'd be called a right Willy Woofter, wouldn't he, up there? But that's just the banter that you get from that part of the world.
Yeah, I mean that would have been the case, but I think things are changing. I mean, this cultural Marxism is spreading its evil tentacles right throughout, especially the younger people. They're all bloody namby-pamby wusses these days, aren't they? Frightened to
they really are a bunch of
really.
Yeah. But it's a shame because go on.
So very quickly, I like what Billy Connolly said. He said there's one sport in the Olympics you'd never see in Glasgow. That's the fast walking. He said nobody would survive. Imagine going through the court.
Oh, Jesus, I love Billy Connolly. He's on my Mount Rushmore of comedians, that man.
Yeah,
brilliant comedian.
Dave Allen is my favourite, and George Carlin.
I love Dave Allen. But I think in a way, in a funny way, Billy Connolly is Dave Allen 4.0 in a way, because he tackles much of the same subject matter. He doesn't do the actual sketch comedy, but he actually does approach things in a very similar way. Maybe it's the Celtic thing, I don't know, but I love Dave Allen. I was raised on Dave Allen. I mean, being a kid that was born in the 60s, raised in the 70s, I was raised on that sort of stuff. It's great, great.
Yeah.
But sorry, we need to finish chat first, don't we, Chris?
Yeah. Shall we get back? We go a little bit of chat, and shall we? Then we tail off. We get back to your what you
yes,
say, Robert. So we got here.
Yeah.
Paul Mohammed. Hello, Paul. Hi, all. It is all about population control and reduction, and has been for a long time. And
that is part of it, definitely. Yeah,
that's right. And
he's right, Paul. You're right there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I'm sorry, Robert. We're getting some good feedback from Canada, aren't we? They're buying up land, Opera the Witch, for example. Plus, it is planned to be smart 15-minute city poster child. I think these Hydra freaks want to own smart cities and inhabitants. Interesting. Yes. Yeah. And Chris the Gardener, climate change lockdowns are definitely on the way. Yes, I think you're right there. Yes.
Yeah, he is right.
And we are in the biggest war ever because many will die. Many have already, I'm afraid.
She's right.
Yeah. South Coast Rich says, yes, so many big issues splitting public opinion now. Example, Davok, EU, Russia versus Ukraine, immigration, sexuality, etc., etc. Yeah, it's all being thrown at us, isn't it, really? Because really,
those things have one thing in common, Chris.
Yeah.
That South Coast Rich just mentioned. They're all trivial sideshows relative to what is really going on. And they're all tiny little things. It's a little bit like bee stings. You won't die from one bee sting, but if you have 1,000 bees sting you, you're pretty much screwed. But I take what he says, but I think they're all sideshows. Have you noticed that the 91 Divok, they plugged in that narrative, they rode that horse until it was dead. Then first they had the EU, and then they tried to set brother against brother here with the EU vote or whatever it was. Then you have the 91 Divok. Then you've got the Russia-Ukraine nonsense, and then you've got immigration woven into that, and then the sexuality thing, and then you've got a tie through all of that, the confusion of sexuality, pronouns, and all that kind of thing. They're all diversions.
Yeah,
they're diversions. It's bait and switch. Really, what they're trying to do is keep our eye off the ball. It's like the shell game, John. You know, where you go to the shell, or where you go to the fair, and you've got the guy with 4 shells and 1 pea, and then he does that sort of hocus pocus with it, and you've got to guess, and you never seem to guess where the pea is.
Well,
because he's basically a sleight of hand. That's it. Yes, sleight of hand.
And it just slips it under the one that you don't pick. So yeah.
Yes.
Sleight of hand.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're spot on there. We've also you're right about all this. You sum that up perfectly, Robert. You just summed it up. It's all confusion, and I mean, you can't crack a gag now. Oh, you've got to be a bit careful. You might upset somebody.
Absolutely not. Good God, no. Jesus.
I said last week, I used to work in an office. There was an Israeli bloke and there was a German there. And there was the time when LOLO was and we was all going, we was doing all the salutes. Now,
that writes its own punchline, that scenario, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus,
I mean, you used to go to the German place. Listen very carefully.
Can you read it out to me? I can't read it on my phone. It's too small. Could you read it out to me, please?
Certainly. Now, Yorkshire Rose says, sorry, do you want the last one read out? South Coast Rich, John?
Well, the one that you were laughing at, I don't know which one you were laughing at.
Well, this is one we were saying, yes, so many big issues splitting public opinion now. The example, the Divok 19, EU, Russia versus Ukraine, immigration, sexuality, etc., etc. And we were sort of like cracking a joke. You can't crack a joke anymore, And of course, Yorkshire Rose is in Canada, who's now the Fockham. What do you say? What do you think? Do you reckon she could be the Fockham press agent there? Maybe, or ambassador in
She
Canada.
could be our envoy to the
American
UN, couldn't she?
correspondent,
Yeah.
North
Yes.
American correspondent.
Yes.
North American correspondent. Yes. So remember, fly the flag for Fockham. The smoke in the air has meant crops, trees haven't had the sunlight they need, and crops are going to be poor, meaning that price of bread and wheat products, I would assume, will be going through the roof. Think about it.
Yeah.
Yes. And we've got here, Ancient Ruby says, it is complete madness. And believe nothing until you research everything. I 100% agree with you there. Yes. Anyway, shall we give chat a little bit of a break? And you had something you was going to say, Robert.
There were a few things. I mean, I have my own sort of homespun theories about this, and I wanted to float it as a statement / question. Now, this is a thing I'd address to John as well. Now, do you think that the security services, the alphabet agencies, CIA, MI6, MI5, I know, Assad, those guys, the chosen people, those geezers, do you think that they've actually, they manufacture fear? Do you think they can literally take anything and extrapolate it in order to create fear driven by their paymasters? Do you think that's another way they do things?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point, actually. I've not thought of it in those terms before, but yeah, I mean, that makes sense totally. I mean, nothing surprises me anymore, so I wouldn't be falling off my chair in surprise if that was the case. Yeah. But it's totally plausible. Yeah. Totally plausible to me that they will. Maybe they try every trick in the book once at least, and then the ones that seem to stick, they'll carry on and use them over and over and over again. If it's a modus operandi that works, they'll carry on using it. And why wouldn't you? If you were in their position, you do exactly the same.
Yeah, it's my contention as well that they're aided by the mainstream media, and inadvertently by us, because some of us believe it. And then what we do is actually start to circulate the fear that generates amongst everybody else. How many people, especially the elderly, have you seen walking around in the open air with masks on? How many people have you seen driving a car by themselves with the windows wound up with a mask on? I mean, they're still doing it. I'm not too sure what it's like because you're up in Scarborough, aren't you?
Scarborough,
John?
Yeah, I mean, I have noticed actually the last week or two that there seems to be a small proliferation of masks again. Yeah. Now I don't know what's causing that. Although I have noticed I have one concession to the mainstream media, and that is Microsoft News, right? MSN.
Right.
I have a news feed just to not because I'm interested in reading the vile shit that they put out, but because I need to keep up with what's going on in the mainstream. And I've noticed they've been pushing the COVID narrative again very slightly. Not overly much, but they've been saying, oh, there's a new variant out now, There's no need to worry. As though, they're saying it to make you worry, but they say, oh, but, there's no need to worry. But if there's no need to worry, why even bother bloody mentioning it in the first place, Anyway, that's by the by. But the point being that I think one or two people are being scared by that, and I think that's what's causing a few more masks to appear, especially in the elderly. I've noticed. Have you guys noticed that at all? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there are there are quite a few. When I go into my local Morrison's just up the road, there's a young kid. I mean, I've got suits older than this kid. He can't be more than 20 years old, 22 years old. I'm not joking. Now, he has a mask on all the time. There used to be a chap that, my last job, lovely fella. I used to call him Timmy Two Masks because he wore two masks and his name was Tim. And I just thought, and it took him ages. It took him ages to get these things off. and literally had a tan line, John. He had a tan line. It was, you know, like the Anthill mob where they've got the 5 o'clock shadow,
Yeah,
but he had
yeah.
that in reverse. This was
It
white,
does
and the
sound like
rest
a
was
5
all
o'clock
sort of a
shadow.
normal colour. That's the one, yeah. So it was a little bit like that. I mean, what about you, Chris?
Yes, I've actually noticed around here, especially the older West Indian population seem to be those wearing the masks. And the
Really?
ones that came over in the 50s and the 60s from,
Yeah.
and I've noticed, I mean, there's a lot that are Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was in Waltham Cross the other week at the market. So I don't live at the market. I just go down there, cycle down there. Sad, isn't it? And there's these ladies, West Indian, I assume, I'm pretty sure they are West Indian, absolutely immaculately dressed, absolutely immaculate, and beautiful, absolutely prestige. And there's some seating area that's a little bit off the sort of main concourse, and I was sitting down having a cup of tea out my vacuum flask, and I'm a tight-fisted. I don't go to cafes, and I was sitting there with the guy, having a drink, and they came, and they were very religious, and they put a little shrine up on the seat, and in this dirt and filth, the pavement, got down on their knees, and they had masks on, and it was a hot day, sweltering hot day. They got their clothing filthy, obviously, because they got down on their knees to pray, but they still had their masks on. And the reason why, they are the generation that did what they were told. Come over to Britain. I bet their youngsters are not doing it, but there's that generation. And I've found the older generation are also the ones wearing the masks.
Yes.
And also the teenagers, the young teenagers are doing it a lot. Have you noticed that? Youngsters.
Yeah. Well,
it's
bringing it down to
weird.
ethnicity again, on the ethnic side of things, have you noticed that a lot of Far Eastern people, Chinese, Japanese, Singaporean, Thais, every age group seems to wear them. I was in York.
But isn't that cultural anyway, John? The Asiatic people.
Yeah, it is.
We're talking about,
But it comes back to the point that Chris was making. I think they are used to doing what they are told in these cultures.
Yes,
they're used to being the government decreeing that you must do this, so they just do it, and it's almost without questioning it. I was in York a few months ago, and I just happened to be driving past the university there, and there's a massive population of Far Eastern students at York University. I don't know whether that's the case in every university now. I have no idea. But that's beside the point. But I noticed that this is even like 6 months ago, virtually every single Eastern Asian student was wearing a mask in the street, and I just thought, wow. Yeah. So, there is a cultural aspect to it as well, I think, isn't there?
Well, John, there's a John actually in the Far East who actually comments on my BitChute channel because he's censored. He can't actually comment on my YouTube channel because what I do, I download. So if you don't find me on YouTube, if I've been booted off, go on to BitChute, but best of all, go on to Telegram. It tells you what's happened, or my website, fockhamhallradio.com. But John in the, shall we say, Siam, where he is, he said, even now, majority of people have got the masks on because they're so compliant. Eastern people, But
I think as much as anything, the 91 Divok, as Robert calls it, I think that whole scenario was, as much as anything, there were several purposes for it, but it was a test of compliance.
Yes.
It was to see how far they could push us, and I think that it actually reached a point, 2.5, 3 years in, when less than that, 2.5 years in, they realised it was failing because people had stopped complying, and people had stopped being fearful of it, and so they abandoned it because I think it was really meant to go until about 2025. If you read the Rockefeller Lockstep document, it actually details every stage of the process, and they only got maybe not even halfway through that and abandoned it. So I definitely think there was a a compliance test element about it. I'm not saying that was the entirety of the
Oh,
reason.
yeah.
Obviously, there were even worse reasons than that, which I won't mention on YouTube. But I definitely think that was an element of it, for sure.
Yeah, I believe that they've turned the world into an open air laboratory now, where they can test any theory, any crackpot theory they want. Now, it could be organic, it could be chemical, it could be an atmospheric test with the these pulse weapons and energy weapons. And Louise and Ancient Ruby, they touched upon it earlier on, and they were having a little conversation between themselves, and they touched upon it earlier on, and also Yorkshire Rose, whereby I didn't hear about the forest fires in Canada. It would follow that there are forest fires, so there's a lot of bloody forest out there. But why would that be? And even Yorkshire Rose said that that is unusual. Why now? I mean, we'd say why now. They'd say why not?
Come on, get with the program.
Yes, of course, of course. Of course, yeah. And you know what? All this would be solved if we got Greta Thunberg a boyfriend.
Or a
We've
girlfriend.
Got to get some some big strapping bloke with no pronouns and a skirt. You know the type.
But let's face it, what they're putting to us is funny. It really is funny. I mean, I don't want to deride anybody, but when you see these blokes with a 5 o'clock shadow walking along within the Miss World competition,
unbelievable.
Almost with a beard, It reminds me of during the Cold War. Do you remember, Robert and John? I'm not sure if you got it where you are. They used to have, was it Soviet News or Soviet Monthly? It was a propaganda magazine that was put out by the Soviet news agency over here, and they used to get it free. And in our office, used to get it for a laugh. They had a glamorous grandmother competition in Australia with a full beard.
Jesus Christ.
He's had too much hormone cream. Or she has.
Oh my God. But what I wanted to ask as well is that we know the nudge unit exists, and it always probably has done.
Yeah.
What is the earliest instance of a nudge unit that we can think of here? I mean, obviously you got Spanish flu. Obviously that goes hand in hand with how good the media is, how good our communications would be. Obviously you can't do it with a bush telegraph. You can, but it takes ages. But when you've got telegraphs and you've got telegrams and things like that, and then later on you've got telephones, televisions, that sort of thing. So, I mean, because I know for a fact that that David Cameron did not invent the nudge unit. That man couldn't tie his shoelaces without Googling it, So, no, I mean, let's face it. I mean, you know what they used to call him at Oxford or Eton? Sorry, they used to call him ham face because he's got those big fat rosy cheeks. Ham face, yeah. Because his face looks like a ham, especially when he was younger. Yeah, ham face. I worked with a chap that was.
Yes, he likes putting parts of his anatomy in a pig, doesn't he? Allegedly.
Yeah.
Do you hear about that?
Yeah. Well, yes, yeah. It's part of the initiation, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was a Bullingdon boy, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's it.
In the Bullingdon Club,
yeah.
I've actually got something I could play about the Bullingdon Club, which is actually on my archive. Play now, but it's a bit long. But it was actually done on Richie Allen's show, and it was a prostitute who, a high class one, very nice girl, who knew these people in the Bullingdon Club, what they got up to. I might play it probably next week. It's it put you off your dinner, what she says, she was told by these blokes, But shall we go back into quickly whiz into chat, because we've got loads. We've got a record number of people in chat tonight. Absolutely.
Oh, great.
Double we normally, it really is very high tonight. So please excuse me if I don't read everybody's out, but is there anything else you want to say? Okay, Robert, John, all right to go into chat?
It can hold. It can hold because it was just a follow-on to what I was mentioning earlier on.
Mm-hmm. So,
but we need to get into chat, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So we've got Ancient Ruby. Yorkshire Rose, and our correspondent now, you know, outside of Canada, you're not hearing about these fires. Spot on, we haven't. And this year has been the worst on record, covering millions of acres and many people evacuated. That's interesting. It's a bit like everybody knows about what's happening in the Middle East with two places, you know, like Palestine and that. But very, very few people, and it's an Australian friend of mine that told me this, have you heard about the ongoing war in West Papua New Guinea? Nobody hears about it in this country. Nobody. And apparently what it is, I think it's Indonesia, has actually, they got their independence. East Papua got their independence from Australia, but West Papua didn't. And it was given, I think the UN gave West Papua to the Indonesians, who are a completely different culture to the people there. And they're treating the people like the French colonialists treated people in the Congo. Seriously. And it is absolutely horrendous. And if they want, because there's lots of gold, there's lots of minerals in West Papua. So if they want an area, they don't give a shit who's there. They'll just wipe the top of a mountain. If there's people living in a village, they couldn't give a damn. And these poor sods, all they've got is bows and arrows and the most basic of weapons, fighting against a country that is armed to the teeth by America and the place we're not allowed to criticize. So it's a war that's ongoing. In Australia, they know about it, just about. We hear nothing about it. And it's an ongoing war since, I think, 1960, 61, something like that. But nobody's heard about it. And there's massacres, a lot, terrible things. I've seen some really gory pictures from it. It's not nice, you know. Right. Now we've got here, this is interesting. Sail away. Many plant species, seeds, can't germinate without fire. That's true in Australia. Yes, I agree with you in Australia. I'm not too sure about Canada. Don't know. Right, we got here Ancient Ruby. They know what they are doing. This is Louise. Sorry, this is Ancient Ruby talking to Louise. It has been planned for a long time. I knew this info back in 1999, yet got laughed at, and here we are. Yes, yes. Now we got here Angela Davis. Hello, Angela. Nice to see you. Nice. We got Leviticus Shovit. Chris the Guru. I wish I had the guru's money. It's like there's a guru now that's a member of the World Economic Forum, isn't he? He's a sad sod. That's Sadhguru. Yes, Sadhguru is a member of the Economic Forum. Whoa. Chris the Gardener says, we don't need forest fires in the UK. The Scottish government, this is interesting, have cut down 16 million trees. Bloody hell. To make room.
It's ongoing as well. It's nationwide, not just Scotland. It's nationwide.
Which are useless. That's right, which are mostly useless. Oh my God. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, where I live in North London, they've been chopping down trees on the side of the roads and replacing them with new ones. And I was talking to a chap that was responsible for topping and topping the trees. So the foliage actually doesn't grow out of the top as in a conventional tree, because they cut that part away. So it actually grows through the bark, which is really odd looking. Now, I asked him, why are you doing that? And he said, well, you know, a lot of them are suffering from diseases and whatever else. This gives them a reason. I think I've discussed this a little bit before with Chris, where they've, Chris the Gardener, it gives them a great opportunity to replace organic things with things that they have patented that are organic. Because once you you alter the DNA structure or the organic structure of something, you can then claim ownership of that whole thing. Hence the GMO plants and whatever else. And so there's a chap called Percy who's passed away now. I think he's actually Canadian, unless I miss my guess. They made a movie about him with Christopher Walken, whereby he was minding his own business on his farm, And he gets a letter from Monsanto saying he owes them $1,500 or something. And he said, well, why? He said, well, you've been using our plants for the last 20 years. He said, that's rubbish. I've got my own seed samples here. I keep my own seed samples. I've been farming this land for 40 years, and my father for 20 years before me. So he sent the seeds off to be tested, John and Chris, and it turns out that years ago they dropped seeds of the same crop that he was planting when he was sowing these seeds, and then they melded together. Yeah. So this is another thing that they're trying to do to us. Pardon? Sorry?
Percy Schmeisser, it was called.
That's the one, yeah. Now, I'm convinced that that's what they're doing with you. That's what they're doing. It's to really alter the structure of the human being, the DNA strands or whatever else. Then they can claim ownership. Now, there's a disclaimer on the nose swabs that they have that you are automatically signing over your DNA to the company that owns the rights to those nose swabs. I only discovered this very, very recently, and I mean only about a year ago. And something told me not to actually, where I was working before, you had to actually have a test every day for the 91 div. Right. Every day to go in. I'm serious. And you had to actually screenshot your NHS thing and send it into the line manager. Now, I would just go and do that and give it all that and test it that way. And I was praying, John. I was praying that I would be positive, so I could have a couple of days off work.
Yeah,
but it didn't work. I'm as healthy as a bloody horse. But what I'm trying to say is that when you open these things and read, it goes back to what Ancient Ruby said earlier on, that you must investigate everything. You cannot take anything for granted, because the devil is in the detail and they hide it there. That phrase doesn't come out of the thin air. They write things in Latin. You look at the Citizenship Act. When they were debating that act in the House of Commons, they debated it in French. In an English parliament, they had a debate in French. Now, these people the common man didn't speak French, unless his mother happened to be a Huguenot or something like that. Maybe he got it handed down from one of his parents, but generally speaking, the common man couldn't bloody read and write. These people were discussing, we're talking about the 17th century here. These people, and this was after the act, the Fire of London, they were debating this thing in French. They came to their conclusions in French, but they stamped the act in English. But it had a French name, the Cesticuvi or Ceticuvi. They can't remember how to pronounce, but 1666.
Yeah.
So this is what they do. And they said, well, you can't say you haven't been told. Well, hang on, you didn't tell me. Yes, we did. We did it in French, but we told you. And I said, right, okay, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. So that's why they put things like that in Latin, so that people don't understand it. And that's why they killed Latin in schools. Probably, John, maybe your part of the generation was maybe the last to have Latin in normal everyday schools. They have them in public schools still, but they're hiding this thing from us. And this is an easy way of going, sort of circling back to the subject. It's an easy way to create fear, because then you're in fear of what you read. You're in fear of what you see, and they're getting you're doubting everything. Then, sorry, but I've segued away from it. But let's rotate back to the chat, Chris. I'm so sorry, but I just wanted to make that point.
This is fascinating, because fear. I mean, for example, supposing a spot came up on my hand. Well, I think one's come up on my hand today because I impaled it on a rose thorn. Well, I know what it is, so I'm not frightened of it. I mean, it'll go down a day or two, so what? But if I didn't know what it was, I'd be terrified. But we've got some interesting ones here. Aunt Sally. Hello, Aunt Sally.
Oh, she's back. Hello, Aunt Sally.
Hello. Hey. Apple have the power to block certain channels on Telegram from the phone.
Quite right.
You can only access them from the Telegram website on a laptop. Well, I've got an Android phone and I access it on there.
Me too.
And I also access it on my computer. So, but I can't access it, strangely enough, on my Apple iPad. It won't do it. Mind you, I've got an old
Really?
one, so that's the reason, yeah.
Ah,
And that woman I was trying to
that's
think of
interesting.
was Joan Rivers. That was it.
Joan
She
Rivers.
said that, oh, everybody in Hollywood, no, not everybody in showbiz or something, I can't remember it verbatim, but everybody knows that Michelle Obama is a tranny. She was dead in 2 weeks.
Yes. Shortly thereafter, she passed away, didn't she?
Yes, on a routine operation, which was a minor one.
Yes. And this is coming from a woman that has had loads of surgery. I mean, it was quite clear that she had loads of surgery. Now, she'd been put under probably about 10, 15 times in her life. So to die from a routine operation would be
But it's a minor one,
especially when you've just said something like that.
Yeah, very minor.
Sorry, I just lost the I lost sound for a few seconds there. Who they had died?
Joan
We were
Rivers.
talking about Joan Rivers, John.
Oh, Joan Rivers. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
She died curiously shortly after making the crack that Michelle Obama is really Michael Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Robinson. He was called.
Yeah, because he made a slip, and
was
me and
he was
Michael.
a professional footballer at one time.
All these single asylum seekers are here to be our army, because when the shit hits the extractor fan, our soldiers will not fight us, so the asylum seekers will do the job instead and war on us. That's a good point.
Yeah, heard this before. Yeah.
Yeah, but
worse still, I think they could be Manchurian candidates, John. I think they could be Manchurian candidates.
It's possible.
Because, maybe they've we had to wait. Maybe we had to wait for them to be programmed properly, and then they release them.
Yes.
So it's the same principle as the genetically modified mosquitoes and moths that go around biting people, giving them beriberi and diphtheria and all that kind of nonsense.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the real situation is that, all right, if they're asylum seekers, I feel sorry for them, but not because it's the principle of the government. That's the one that's letting these people in. And why is their country the way it is? It's all like a giant chess game, and this is what irritates me. It really does, because people should be where they want to be, not because they economically have to be. Big difference, that is. Very, very big difference. Now it says Cox equals cock. Yes, I'd agree with you there. Yes. And do you mean Cox, the ex-CERN employee? Yes, I think he was.
Okay.
Save water, drink your own piss. Well, that's what allegedly Dave did, wasn't it? Allegedly Dave.
He does, allegedly Dave, yeah.
Yes, I'd like to get him on the show. Actually, I should think he'd be quite a bit of a laugh, actually, because between you and I know this secret. He's from Essex.
He is.
Yes.
Well,
yes, an Essex boy.
He's in St. Lucia at the moment, Chris.
Is he? Oh,
he's in St. Lucia. I don't think he's coming back, actually.
But when you've got the beauty of Southend, I mean, who wants to go to St. Lucia when you've got Southend? I mean, let's face it. I mean, look what you got. You don't get candy floss in St. Lucia.
No, you certainly don't, do you? Yeah,
you don't get dog shit on the floor in St. Lucia.
Right. But the Caribbean, though, is woefully underdeveloped, generally speaking. It's people get carried away with beautiful weather and whatever else, but it is actually the infrastructure isn't all that it's cracked up to be, and they're very much enthralled. I mean, where my people come from, my father was from Nevis, and my mother was from St. Kitts, and whenever you go there, there is still, to my knowledge, there is not one single solar panel on the island, on either of the islands. as far as I know, which is crazy. Amazing, isn't it?
That is amazing.
But
That is
we're talking about a place that has almost perpetual sunshine. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's odd.
Yeah, yeah.
a beautiful
But
part
John
of the world.
Cleese wanted to emigrate to Nevis, John.
Really?
Yeah, John Cleese. I think he moved there for a short time. I don't know if he's still there, but he just said it was beautiful. He loved it. I don't blame him. It's lovely. It is very nice.
Oh yeah.
Never been.
Yeah.
The only place in the Caribbean I've been to is Dominican Republic. I wasn't very impressed with that.
Oh, right.
It was like a third world shithole, basically.
Well, that's what it is. That's what it is, but just with great weather. But if you get a chance, that you should go to St. Kitts and Nevis, because Antigua is just across the water from there. So you can literally take the ferry to Antigua, or one of the little Liat prop planes will take you to Antigua, get you there in about 40 minutes, half an hour maybe.
Right.
Worth going. It's a beautiful part of the world, though. Beautiful part. It's very pretty. Yeah. That's where they filmed the Bounty ads. Do you remember those?
Really?
With
I do.
The ivy growing up out of the sand, the white sand. That is actually a beach on Nevis. That's where they filmed that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I know
beautiful
that Robinson Crusoe was actually filmed in France.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's south of France they filmed it. It's supposed to be on an island.
You get that, Rob?
Say again, please, John.
Sorry.
I was just saying, do you go back there quite a bit, family and all? You know.
I haven't been for a while. But my eldest brother and eldest sister have land over there, and my eldest brother Patrick is building a house there, and Julie my eldest sister has already got a house there. So I think she may retire. But they were both born in St. Kitts and Nevis, and my mum, when she came over to England, my mum came over. I think I was the third to be born in this country, but everybody else, but my older siblings were pretty much all born in St. Kitts, which is interesting.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I went to college with a third generation West Indian chap, and his grandfather came over after the First World War, and his father was born here and served in the RAF during the war. He was a navigator in the RAF.
Yes. And there were a lot of bomber crews that were from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
A lot.
And he saved up all his money and he went to the Caribbean because he had no relatives, any distant ones, in the West Indies at all. And he came back thoroughly depressed because he said, I went there, he said, and wherever I went, he said, I walk into a shop and they say, what part of London are you from, mate? He said, because my body language showed that I wasn't a local.
Absolutely right.
Said,
they can
didn't feel roots there. And I had similar in Greece. I mean, I'm not Greek, but when I was in Greece, I walked into a shop and the fellow could speak English and he said, what part of England are you from? And I said, how do you know I'm English? And he said, I can tell by your body language. It's just the way you, and this fella, he was actually Egyptian and he was brought up on a British army base in Egypt. And he'd never been to this country in his life. Yet he spoke Cockney. Hello, mate, all that. And that's
amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. You would think he was from you would think he was from the East End. Absolute Cockney it was. He learned it from the army blokes. That's the English. He left Egypt and settled in Greece. That's where he got married and owned a shop. But I'll never forget, I walked in this shop here, what part of England are you from, mate? And you could actually tell, and it's quite surprising. We do give off a body language. People don't realise it. Yeah. We do, you know. Right, so we go back into chat. It says here, Dan MC says, who is scared of fake planets and aliens? Oh yeah, what's happened to, was it Planet X? John, you remember Planet X? That's going to collide with us. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all bollocks, isn't it? Along with the rest of the space nonsense, you know. I mean, you know that I'm biased about that, but you know, I mean, again, but that's a good. I'm glad he's brought that up actually because I was going to mention it earlier, then it slipped my mind. But yeah, I mean, that's another big fear thing, isn't it? You know, the alien invasion. They're just preparing us for Project Bluebeam if they ever get that off the ground. If you pardon the pun. You know,
Quatermass.
Space aliens. Yeah, I mean,
the War of the
all that
Worlds.
stuff. I mean, it all nobody ever seen a bloody UFO till the 1940s. I mean, what were they doing? The aliens, were they waiting for us to develop technology so that they could, we would believe that they were there? I mean, the whole thing is just nonsense as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know that gets up people's nose when I say stuff like that, but I don't believe any of
I
it.
quite agree. I quite agree. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing though that they come from billions and billions of light years away and land on Earth? And
It is. You're quite right, John. It is.
But have you ever wondered that why do they meet a complete other raving nutcase? How do they have psychic sort of senses? They don't meet a normal person. They meet a loony.
Maybe. Maybe.
But I'll tell you who, baby, truthers who woke up during the Davok, and now they are enlightened. In my honest opinion, they believe anything online. Yes. I wonder if the final roll of the dice for these parasites will be Project Bluebeam and the fake. It's funny enough, this is what Mark Antony said, the fake alien invasion. Yes. And of course we've got here Ancient Ruby. What are you going to do for the next laugh out loud? Yes. That's in the wings, isn't it? They reckon that it might come through the meat. Isn't that amazing? Slap my thigh. What a surprise. And guess who's experimenting with artificial plastic meat?
Precisely.
Yeah, they don't want us eating meat because, they taste because of climate change and cow farts and all this. They don't want us eating meat. Basically because they know that I'm apologising in advance for any vegans or vegetarians out there, but they know that a vegan and a vegetarian diet is not very healthy for us, and they don't want us to be healthy, of course.
Yeah, you need to supplement it quite a bit, don't you? If you're on a vegetarian diet. I love meat. I mean, I eat a lot of venison, a lot of beef, a lot of pork. Yeah, I do like venison actually. Yeah. I made a fantastic.
I only eat animals. Oh, I'm sorry.
I made an excellent. Yeah. Sorry, you're kind of vegetarian. Sorry.
I'm kind of a vegetarian because I only eat animals that are vegetarians.
That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
You couldn't eat a carnivorous unless you eat a bear or something. Apparently, bear meat is very, very good. The big eastern black bears and the grizzly bears. The meat is excellent. Apparently.
You tried it?
Apparently so. No, actually, I was listening to some American chaps. They're hunters, and they were debating something with Joe Rogan and Ted Nugent. And Joe Rogan was saying that he went hunting up in the mountains or somewhere in Montana or wherever it might be, and they shot a bear. So they thought, okay, well, what are we going to do? They were hunting deer up there, and they called this guy in his pickup with the the things that pick up with the chain and the pulley on it that pick up
I know
broken down cars, the tow trucks. They got one of those things, apparently hoisted this thing up, and the butcher came and skinned it, portioned it and everything, and they had bear steaks. And apparently they were bloody delicious, according to what he said, Joe Rogan. Yeah, but I mean, it would follow that it's completely wild meat, without any additives or anything like that. So you figure that it's
exactly.
Pretty. Yeah, and all they do is run around all day and try and eat other things. So it's amazing. Yeah. Speaking of which, I've got a really quick story.
Hunter-gatherers, don't they? Because they said that agriculture is very labour intensive, but when we were hunter-gatherers, we had more leisure time because we go out, hunt our meat, and then we might have the day off the next day because you come back with
we had enough meat. Yeah, we had enough meat. Yeah.
But when you look at the hunter-gatherers that are still around today, especially in the Amazon jungle, they're very happy people. Very happy because they have more leisure time. They don't have to worry about agriculture. Yeah, yeah. There's their dinner out. You just have to hunt it, you know. But we got here. Paul Mohammed says your name, date of birth, and your address are all hearsay in a court of law. I live inside this body, and wherever it goes, I go. Yes, that's a very interesting one. And we've got here, what's this? The Cockmeister. So what's next? The last card, fake alien invasion, that Carol Rosin says was told from Nazi Werner von Braun, Werner von Braun, sorry, Nazi Werner von Braun. Yeah, I've heard her. Yes, it's sort of interesting. Now it says here, Sheep Farm Studios. I think you know about that. No, Sheep Farm Radio, isn't it, John? Salaway
No, Sheep Farm Studios.
Studios, sorry.
They're good mates of John's.
Has done a deep dive into Trudeau's heritage, among others. Highly recommended.
Yes, I can confirm it's excellent. I've been listening to those guys for a little while now. They, and I've actually met Dom. I went up to his clinic in Halifax, and I went to go and have some ozone. I went to go and have some ozone treatment, and I was, I walked in, you know, because it's right near the station, John. Yeah, so I get off the train, I walk in, and I hear this, hello. And it's Dom comes through, and oh my God, Dom, you know. And he said, "Do I know you?" Like I said, "No, yeah, I listened to your stuff," and we started chatting away. And he was absolutely wonderful, really lovely guy. I'd love to meet Chris one day as well.
We're both brought up in the same little area. We're both from Huddersfield, in West Yorkshire.
Huddersfield, yeah, precisely, yeah. Is that where Mark Bayersky is from as well? Right, okay.
Don't know him.
Interesting. Oh, right. He's a spiritualist and healer. Yeah. It'd be a very interesting chat for you to have with him, John, actually. Because he's from your part of the world as well. He lives in Spain now, though.
All
interesting.
Right.
Sorry, we're getting sidetracked. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Chris, you were continuing with the...
Yeah. But we've got another one here. It says here, Cat Holly says, hello, many apologies for being late. Got a note. Oh, detention tonight. Oh, blimey, you know. And we got here, Ancient Ruby. There are many in masks right now because the rich and royals are leaving to the other Earth.
Really?
The other Earth. Because there was a theory, wasn't there, or something, that there's another Earth. So, that's interesting, you know. And yes, Aunt Sally likes Dave Allen, and we've got Walters. Hello, hi John, Chris, Robert. Love from Truth Seekers Northeast. That's all right, isn't it?
Hello, Mew. Welcome.
Hi, Maureen.
Yes, Maureen, you're on.
Oh, do you know this lady, John?
Yeah.
You're often on Facebook.
It's me and Maureen, yeah. Hi, Maureen. You all right, love? I speak up there quite a bit. I talk at her group. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
It seems, this is South Coast Rich. It seems to be that among the woke type young, there seem to be far more females getting angry and spearheading demos, etc., than males. Yes, I've noticed that. That's quite interesting.
He makes a very good point there. He makes a very good point.
Yeah.
I have theories about that too. We'll move on.
Now we got here aliens or humans masterminding, or AI. This is Angus MacDougall. Wouldn't be Scottish by any chance. Right. Cat Holly, distraction and drama. Panto for the masses. You know, that's
quite right.
True.
Bread and circuses. Yeah. Bread and circuses.
That's all it is. You know, we've got this is an interesting one. Ancient Ruby says, in all the chaos of fires, they are killing what many cannot see or hear about, and that is all the animals, insects, etc. They are also victims. And have you noticed how few insects we have this year? Because I'm old enough to remember, and so is, well, I think all of us are. You drive out in summer and your headlights of your car and your windscreen would be full of insects. Do you remember that? You get this, if you put your windscreen wipers on, you get scrapes of it. You're frozen, Robert. Blimey. Oh, yeah, you can do better. Have you remember that when you used to get loads of insects all over your windscreen, all over your headlamps? You don't get that now. I mean, I've driven through
on the visor when you're on your motorbike as well.
Yeah. No problems at all with no insects. Hardly any. I haven't seen hardly any wasps this year. Plenty of flies, yes, but not as many as there used to be. But sick bees. There's lots of bees that seem to be a bit poorly. I don't know quite what it is.
I saw them as well. Also, what people perhaps would possibly miss is that these are food sources for one another as well. So you're actually cutting out a food source. When you take away a beetle, let's say there's something eats the beetle and the beetle eats something else. It's that chain, that food chain. You're breaking that food chain by doing that, by killing one of the food sources.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very good point. Very good point, because my roses have been attacked by ants this year. Normally there are aphids. Now, ladybirds eat aphids. And when there's a shortage of ladybirds, there's a bloody population explosion of sodding aphids. But
I haven't seen a ladybird for years, Chris. I haven't seen one.
A few around.
Haven't seen quite a few around here.
Yeah.
All right.
But
you must have our share.
Yeah.
I don't think ladybirds are kosher, if you see what I mean, John.
Oh yes, because you're
I don't think they're kosher, and that gives you a clue of where I live in North London. There you go. So,
Now, it says Paul Mohammed says private sector is there to amplify the fear. The Freemasons are up to their neck in it. Yes,
that's a very valid point. Very valid point indeed.
Excuse me, guys and gals and everyone. I just need to go somewhere for a moment.
There you go, right ahead, sir.
Sorry about the light again.
Right, so we're going to shoot your neighbour. Now, the elderly are in real fear unless going out. That's it. So that's rather interesting. Now, this is an interesting one. Yeah. Does anyone think that Farage banking drama is probably their way to promote the idea of a bank account for all, no exceptions, in time for CBDC? Yes.
The timing couldn't be better. Couldn't be better, because we're definitely end of this currency monetary cycle, if you see what I mean. I mean, the fiat currency has been on life support for at least 40 years, maybe even longer. I was listening to a chap on BitChute called Monaco64, and he's a Brazilian chap who used to be a bond trader in the city. I think he's retired now, but he comes up with some very, very interesting theories. But he was actually talking about that the other day about CBDCs, and it was apparently, I think, early August was the 51st anniversary, the 50th anniversary of Nixon coming off of the gold standard for good, basically.
Oh yes, 1971.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I think it's 52nd anniversary, I think, or something like that. But it's very interesting now, and he really, really pissed the French off, because all those American service people and holiday makers that are dumping their dollars in France. They wanted the gold, and they can't have it because it doesn't exist. Because they've literally over leveraged the currency, and they've over monetized it. They've over egged the pudding, shall we say?
Yes.
Capitalized it. That's it. They've over capitalized it, and that's exactly what's happened. And I think this what Kat Holly says. By the way, no, hi Kat. What Kat says has great validity, and the timing could not be better. I mean, there are, Ancient Ruby mentioned this. I mean, she mentions it quite a lot. There are no coincidences. These things are all linked to one another. It's it's a fabric that's woven by these people. So you feed the fear, the misinformation, you feed a load of different things into these little strands, and they weave a bit of cloth out of it, a bit of fabric. And that's what they used to smother us with, basically.
That's right. And it says you're spot on there. It says, this is South Coast Rich. It says, I read that someone high up in the US military or government said that it's known that aliens will arrive on Earth in 2027 or 2025. And so our ruling elite have to plan accordingly. Ring any bells? Yes. Yes.
How very convenient.
Do you remember Malcolm Mindy?
Yes.
It goes to an immigration office. It says, aliens this way. Oh, that means for me. That's a classic. Right. It says Bob Olio. Hello, Bob. I'd say male testosterone levels lowering to make it easier to control. Yes.
Spot on. He's absolutely right. He's absolutely
really
right.
Lowered. Yeah.
I spoke to a nutritionist not so long ago. I was having a few other treatments, and she was saying that you should lay off things like soy milk because it's got too much estrogen in it. And basically, this is why you're getting, they call the boys, the sheep farm boys, call him Bitchlet Gates, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
About Bill Gates with his moobs, his man boobs. He said that is why a lot of guys are getting that now, an excess flab around their tummies, because there's too much estrogen in their diet. And so the quick route to testosterone, I suppose, is eat a load of meat, lift a load of weights, basically, and move around. And don't eat so much in the way of processed foods. Try and eat as organically as you can. And that's probably the quickest route back to testosterone. But you've got certain ethnicities that their women have more testosterone in them than others. For instance, the African diaspora, my diaspora, if you want to call it that, the women have they have more testosterone in them naturally than maybe a European or Asiatic woman would have.
Right. What's the scientific?
It's very, very interesting.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
What's the scientific reasoning behind that, Robert?
I have no idea. I have no idea. You could call it natural selection if you want. I mean, you could call it that. That's probably has something to do with it. But this is why there are so many great female athletes that can run like gazelles. I mean, basically, they run faster because their ghoulies aren't knocking together. That's probably what it is. That might be the reason.
But I mean, it's not just. I mean, to be fair, in your ethnicity, it's not just the women, is it? The men are very athletic as well. Generally, I mean, obviously, there's always exceptions to rules, but the men seem to be very muscular as well.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, it's if you look at the NFL, you look at the not so much baseball these days, but you look at the NBA. I mean, it's just literally. Without wanting to sound funny, it's like Spot the White Man. It's a little bit like that now.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was watching my
as well, isn't it? Same in athletics.
Yeah, I mean, Usain Bolt. I mean,
dominated
by
black people, isn't it?
Yeah. Oddly enough, though, the 200-meter title, the world title, and the world record was held for a long time by a little Italian bloke called Pietro Minea, if you remember him.
I do remember.
Do you remember him?
Yeah.
200-meter runner. He was like, I swear to God, he was like shit off a shovel. He was really quick, very fast. But there you go. But I mean, what happened is that I think he just had a perfect technique. Yeah. I mean, when you train to be a runner, they have what they call strike drills that they do. So if you do anything from 110-meter hurdles right up to maybe even 1,500 meters, they do strike drills. And it looks really odd when you're doing them on the track because you literally look like a horse trotting. But it actually sorts your gait out, and you're literally the way your feet strike the track. Interesting, really interesting. But he was something else, Pietro Minea. And Valery Bortsov, do you remember him, the sprinter? Russian chap? Yeah, he was rapid. Really rapid. But I think they said that he only won his title in Moscow because the American and Canadian athletes and Jamaican athletes boycotted it, apparently.
Yeah.
Because they had the glasnost nonsense, all that rubbish. Yeah. But sorry,
yeah, I mean,
Chris,
what I said before,
we're still
it's obviously a generalization, what I said before, but, you know, there are going to be exceptions to every rule, aren't there? But it is just a generalization.
You're quite right. Yeah. You're
Mind
quite
you,
right. You're quite right.
Up against an Ethiopian, they're built for running. They are unbelievable. And I saw, I'm just,
distance, not sprinting. Yeah, distance.
Yeah, distance. Yeah. And it was a marathon. And the interviewer went up to me, just finished a 25-mile marathon. He went, "Oh yeah, well, you know," as if he just sort of cantered around the corner. I mean, they just set their legs going, and but when you look at their body structure, their frame, they're built for running. There's something about Ethiopia. I don't know.
Lightweight chassis, very lightweight. Yeah.
Very lightweight. Yeah. But now it says here, this is Maureen. Hello. Yes, I'm fine. Looking forward to seeing John at Truth Seekers North East on 11th of October at 7 p.m. Oh, it's good advert.
That's a good plug. That is, Maureen. That is.
NE6 4SJ Newcastle upon Tyne. That's all right, isn't it? Well, get on the.
So, John, is Maureen your publicist?
Yeah.
No.
She's very good, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
No, Ancient Ruby says. Yeah, so put that on there, and you can put it on my Telegraph channel. I don't mind. Telegram, rather. I don't mind.
Grace, I've actually sent you an email with all my upcoming talks on for the rest of this year.
Oh, brilliant! I'll shove it on Telegram, and I'll shove it on the. Now, if you go onto Facebook, I only post now on Fockham Hall group, and the only thing I post outside the Fockham Hall group is if I accidentally do it, and for this show, and that's it basically. So if you want to sort of see me on Facebook, it'd be in Fockham Hall. That sounds good, doesn't it? Now it says here, what we got here. Bob has said, I remember that it was the 1990s. You had flies and insects and that covering the windscreen.
Covering the windscreen, yeah, quite right.
You know, but now says, oh, hang on, this is a good one. Salaway says Farage is controlled opposition. I wouldn't trust that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, can't stand him. I
have a very good story, Chris and John, about the way he got fired from the metal exchange. I shall tell you when we're off air.
Oh, that's interesting. I think I'm going to have a very late night tonight. We're going to talk a lot after we're off here.
I'm going to have a lot of story. I'm not going to be able to stay on long, I'm afraid, guys. I've got to shoot off, but I've got an early start in the morning driving down to Birmingham, so it's 4.5 hour drive from here.
Jesus, it is, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
How many miles? How many hours, John?
4.5 to Birmingham from here.
Bloody hell, that's a long way, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it takes an hour to get to York, you know. So, you know, because we're right out on a limb on the East Coast, you see.
Yeah, of course, you're right on the East Coast, aren't you? You're quite right,
yeah.
Yes, it says here, do not trust anything of them in Parliament. They are all against the people and always will be. And I've noticed, I mean, I've had very little experience with politicians, but when I've met them, they seem to be lacking a soul. They just seem to be soulless, sort of. I don't know if you found this. Have you met many politicians that, I don't know, you know?
Too many. The word parliament, by the way, is from the French parler, to talk.
Speak, yeah.
That is, it's a talking shop. Speak. It's a talking shop. That's literally what it's meant. Yeah. It's a debating chamber, if you want to call it that.
Yes. They do a lot of mass debating in those chambers, don't they?
They do, yes.
Yes.
Somebody else.
There's nothing rude there. Very clean. There we got here. Bob Alex said, yes, America went bankrupt. That's right. It was August 1971, and Britain came off the gold standard in 1933, I believe, because we went bankrupt in 1933. So a lot happened in 1933. Yes. And hang on, he's back again. Here we come. Hello, right, we're back again. We're almost coming up to time, actually. And it's gone
Oh my
very,
God.
very quick tonight. I've really enjoyed it. I don't know about you, but wow, you know.
I thought it
There
was
is one
rubbish.
thing I wanted to say before we go as well.
Right.
There is, yeah. So, I mean, there's the last couple of questions, or points I wanted to raise.
Okay, fire away, Robert.
Is there a critical mass? I mean, whereby they'll have loaded us with so much, frankly, bullshit that we'll just throw up our hands and say, actually, it's us against you now. Now leave us alone, or you'll suffer the consequences. Is there a critical mass that we have to reach for that to happen?
Well, according to the principle of the 100th monkey syndrome, if we all know what that is, they reckon the tipping point is 20%.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So when 20% of people become aware, and I mean really aware, not just in lip service, because of what is going on, then automatically, according to the 100th monkey syndrome, believe it or not, then automatically the whole of the human race will become aware as well at the same time. Allegedly. You know, I'm only quoting what I've read and been told, so it may or may not be true.
Yeah.
Now, I also wanted to float the idea. Well, it's not an idea and it's not a theory either. We're suffering from a collective PTSD already from this. There are people that have killed themselves they've terminated their lives as a result of the stress and the strain from this nonsense that they put us through. Can you imagine the lawsuit? And who do we sue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They're above the law, aren't they? When you come to think of it.
Well, yes, they are above the law because they manipulate it in Parliament by acts of Parliament as well. And not just that, acts of the Senate as well. I'm sure it's the same in the French Parliament, German Parliament, Russian Parliament. They can move legislation around to suit them.
But all you need is natural law, and that is injury, loss, or harm. That's all you need. That is marvellous because
right.
You're not allowed to injure people, not allowed to harm people, or cause person loss, i.e. robbing them. And this is really what police should be there for, to uphold that, not what they are at the moment, which is agenda promoters and tax collectors. It's basically what they are. Because to me, how comes we had a smaller police force years ago, but it's much more effective? You know, it's this is the thing, you know. Anyway, I think we might have to wind this up now. We've just come up to the time, and if there's any sort of like final words whilst I try and sort out where the end credits are, how would you like to sort of round off? Is there anything you'd like to round off with, Robert and John?
No, I said the little that I needed to say basically, but I wanted just to get the feedback on the last 2 or 3 points that I made. I mean, there's so many that agree in chat that we are really. It's part of the fear syndrome. It's part of what they used to call shell shock or battle fatigue. PTSD. They'll probably have a new word for the new millennium, a new phrase for this. This trauma that we're going through. This, and it is battle trauma. We may not have rounds being fired at us, but we are being put under we're under siege as a race, as a human race. We're under siege. And,
well, you're right. I mean, I remember when I was younger, they were not allowed on films to show guts and gore. So someone got shot.
Yes, precisely. Yes.
Oh, you know. And then all of a sudden, it became very, very graphic, very graphic.
Yes.
And now you see everything, and it's so realistic. You know, it is really horrendous. Do we need to see things? Because years ago, they're far more imaginative. And, you know, as Alfred Hitchcock said, I can't repeat it verbatim, but he said, your imagination works sort of overtime. I mean, there's a scene where Cary Grant was with a very attractive girl in one of these, you know, these overnight trains where you can sleep
Yes,
overnight.
Eva Marie Saint, North by Northwest.
That's it. And the train goes into the tunnel. So you use your imagination, what is about to happen. And Alfred Hitchcock made that example. And when you look at the early films of Dracula, you see the shadows. And the film I was on about last week, or was it the week before? I can't remember. The Third Man. Sorry, no, we mentioned it in chat. It's The Third Man. You've really got to see that film. It is a brilliant film.
It's a great film. It's a great film.
Oh, I mean, the shadows, it just says it all. And they reckon that they haven't got the technicians today to actually produce such a quality film. We've actually lost that skill.
Another example of that is the shower scene in Psycho, where you just see the shadow of the knife going up and down, and then you see the blood running in the gutter on the shower. You don't actually see the stabbing itself, but it's graphic enough, you know.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Although I don't like what's his name now? That director that did E.T. I can't think of his name. Spielberg. I don't like Spielberg as a person. I have to admit, his first film that he ever did, which was Duel, is an absolute masterpiece.
Oh,
on the edge of your seat.
Guys, I'm going to have to love you and leave you, I'm afraid. I've got so much to do.
Okay.
I've got to get up early.
Okay.
Tomorrow,
well, I better sign off. So thank you very much, everybody. Join us at the same time.
Thanks.
Same
Great
place.
to meet you, John.
Next week.
Robert. Take care, my friend.
And
take care. See you.
Remember, whatever happens,
Be in touch, Chris. Bye-bye.
see you. Have a laugh.